Okay, this video is called How to Get the Best Medical Outcomes. And we start here with a painting called Playing Chess with Death by Albertus Pictor from 1480. And I like that idea because that's what we all basically do. Then there was a movie by Ingmar Bergman called The Seventh Seal. And here the knight is playing chess with death. I saw this movie. It was a pretty good movie. It's sort of the philosophical. It was during the time of the plague and, how one's life plays out. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. Okay. All right, so now here's, I think, perhaps the most important slide in this talk. I want you to understand what you're up against, okay? What is needed for great health care? You must have a love of mankind. Anybody who tells you science is full of BS because there's no such thing as science. What people say is real science usually is just advertising for money to exploit people. You have to have a love of truth. Okay, that's why these have to be, you can't get away from religion and philosophy if you want to provide high quality health care. Here's a quote from St. Augustine. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone is doing it. Right is right, even if no one is doing it. And here's just a typical example. Let's say a fat 55-year-old man walks into your medical office. He's probably got obesity, high blood pressure, pre-diabetic or diabetic, fatty liver, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, impotence. So right away you can put this guy on a bunch of pills, easily 3 pills, maybe 5, 6, 7 pills. And you get money from him every day. You pick his pocket every day. Got a little tightness in the chest, send him to cardiology for a consult. Okay, he's going to get a cardiac cath, maybe a cardiac CT, and then if he goes for cath, treadmill stress test, he's got a good chance he's going to get a stent. That could end up billing for over $30,000, okay? Then let's say he's got, left main disease, left main coronary artery disease, the so-called widowmaker. He might get recommended and sent for CABG, coronary artery bypass graft. That can bill anywhere from $100,000 to $120,000, okay? Maybe he needs Viagra or a penile implant, but the point I'm saying is, can you imagine the difference between if you teach a guy how to eat a vegan diet, he can learn how to heal all these problems for himself, most likely. The most amount of money you're going to get off him for doing that is $1,000, $2,000. Whereas this, the hospital, lots of hospitals, by far the most money they make comes in from cardiology, from things like stents and open heart surgery. Do you think they want their doctors teaching patients the vegan diet? Caldwell Esselstyn said they didn't want him teaching his Esselstyn diet over at the Cleveland Clinic. It's one of the best, places for stenting and cardiac surgery in the world. All right. There's no money in it, relatively speaking. So that's why I'm saying you have to love mankind. You have to love the truth. And I believe it helps to have a religious point of view that man is created in the image of God, therefore part divine, so that you're ethically obligated to help him and do the right thing. Now, don't get me wrong. The vast majority of patients, in my experience, over 95% of them, they don't want the vegan diet. They just want, can you give me a pill? They want a quick fix, even though the quick fixes usually don't work very well. You're not going to significantly improve all-cause mortality with stents or with CABG, but you do dramatically improve it with low-fat, low-sodium vegan diet. Okay. A couple quotes here. Thucydides, the great Greek historian from the time of Athens' greatness. So little pains do the vulgar take in the investigation of truth, accepting readily the first story that comes to hand. Yeah, the masses have always been ignoramuses, not interested in learning, but for those amongst them who want to learn, the information's here. Okay, Peter Abelard, the great Aristotelian from the Middle Ages. By doubting, we are led to question, and by questioning, we arrive at the truth. And you have to question things, otherwise you're not likely to come out of it well. Johann von Goethe, the German great writer, philosopher, he said, wisdom is found only in truth. First and last, what is demanded of genius is a love of truth. Yes, and that should be a big thing for doctors and for other healthcare providers and nutrition experts to help people, that you really care about the truth and you make the effort to learn it. Because in a superficial sense, one is easily tricked into all this, low-carb, keto nonsense. Okay, Julien Lemaitre. He said, for a wise man, it is not enough to study nature and truth. He must proclaim it for the few who are able to think. The rest can't reach the truth any more than frogs can fly. So yeah, that's true. The masses actually have very little chance. They never are cured from these chronic diseases with conventional medicine. The cure rate is 0%. you know, for hypertension with a pill, diabetes with a pill. Come on. And cabbage isn't going to fix all the diffuse atherosclerosis that's everywhere else other than the blockage that's bypassed. When big money talks, the truth shuts up. Yep. Big pharma, big device companies, they've got millions and millions or billions of dollars. Whatever they say is going to be widespread and diffuse, and the average intellect will take that as the truth. And also, doctors and scientists get punished for telling the truth. Number one, they don't make any money. Number two, they don't get any grant money. And number three, they sometimes get retaliation and booted out of their jobs. That's a very common thing, unfortunately. So anyways, I just wanted you to realize any doctor talks to a patient about low-fat vegan diet, they're really doing them a big favor because they're not getting paid to do that. And it's frowned upon for all these financial reasons. That's like why I said, back in the 1800s, the Protestants were pretty nasty to the Catholics, and the Catholics finally had enough of it, and they built their own school system. It's often taught by poorly paid nuns and whatnot, but the Catholic schools eventually became much better than the public schools. And I think you really need sort of a biblical ethic if you're going to break away from this money-based thing. Let me just show you some examples. This was a grandchild, and that was my mom. One of her grandchildren was born in septic shock, and the kid was on a ventilator. He was basically put on a heart-lung bypass machine called ECMO, endocorporeal membranous oxygenation. She moved into the ICU with the child for like 2.5 weeks. She had a statue of St. Jude. She was praying to St. Jude. She had a picture of Padre Pio, one of her favorite saints. She was praying to him. I mean, at this time, my mom had metastatic colon cancer to her lungs with a whole bunch of lung metastases. She's coughing up blood. She's hiding it in the garbage can so the nurse in the ICU doesn't, see it and then, tell her she has to leave. But anyways, she's with the baby every day. I love you. I am with you. You are going to be okay. And, the doctors did a fantastic job at the pediatric hospital with the heart-lung bypass, but I don't think the kid would have lived if my mother wasn't there. Now, don't get me wrong, the kid needs both. Needs good medical care and also needed the love of his grandmother, who lowered his stress level, got him to calm down, lowered his cortisol so he could heal, so his body could recover. And that's how you get the best outcomes, when you've got that love, kindness, truth, and technical skill and the education. They all work together. Love alone helps, but it can only do so much. Knowledge alone is overrated. The kid would have died no matter what the doctors did if he didn't have grandma there to calm him down and give him that unconditional love. So it's good to have both. And here's a quote from the Bible, 1 Peter, verse 4, chapter 4, verse 8. Above all, love each other deeply, for love covers a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to each other. Use what other gift you have received to help others. So some people tell me, I shouldn't talk about the Bible, religion, love, and all this stuff in medical talk. You know what? I should. This is how you get the best results. And those people get usually crappy results and take advantage of people. So atheistic medicine is quite overrated. I'm an expert on the subject, and I can assure you, I've seen a lot in all the fancy places I've been. And this warm personal touch makes a big difference. That's why a doctor who's nice or a nurse who's nice, it's not just because they're nice. It also improves patient care, improves patient outcomes. Okay, Thucydides. My history has been composed to be an everlasting possession, not the showpiece of an hour. This book, this video is written not for the applause of the moment, but as a gift to mankind for all time. Thucydides, the great author of the Peloponnesian War, where he put forth the truth about the psychology of Sparta versus Athens. Aristotle. The highest activity of man is the pursuit of truth. The high-minded man must care more for the truth than for what people think. The painting here is Pericles' Funeral Oration by Philip Foltz. So all of that is true. And so a doctor must be trained to love the truth, and a nurse, in order to do the best. And if you have science alone, you end up in health hell. And this was I talked about this before, spoof on these paintings by Dino di Durante is the cover of his magnificent book, Inferno, the Art Collection. They're like the greatest Dante paintings. And I said, each river is like part of health hell. One is high fructose corn syrup, another is caffeine, etc. Okay, so people want to get out of health hell. Here, by the way, this next picture is, Charon rowing the boat, taking the souls from here to hell. Okay, and what we want to do is get our own boat and start heading in the opposite direction. Okay, that's what we want to do. We want to get out of health hell. This is called Crossing the River, the ford by Hans Diehl from the 1800s. And basically what it comes down to, you either go low-fat vegan or close to it, or you end the best is go full-board low-fat vegan, full frontal low-fat vegan, and you're probably not going to need any pills or any surgery, versus if you don't, you keep up with the meat, oils, processed food lifestyle, you're going to get drug, chop, chopped, dead early, bye-bye money, broke and dead. Okay, and like I said too, I think it helps to have the biblical worldview. Man is created in the image of God, therefore part divine, because then he's entitled to natural rights. Look at the biblical view here, Genesis 1:27-29. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant-bearing fruit, which shall be food for you. So there's the Genesis diet, okay? And that's the healthiest diet. And so if man's not part of the divine, the default way, like what is taught in all the United States universities, is atheistic Darwinism, claiming that man is just a talking primate, therefore he has no soul, there's nothing divine about him, he's no different than the other animals, but he sort of talks, has a little bit more cognitive function. And whether or not you believe this view or this view has an incredible big effect on healthcare outcomes. There's no obligation to talking primates. You put them in cages, okay, they have no property rights, they have no free speech rights. Okay, so look at this. What's the cure rate for conventional medicine for the so-called chronic diseases? They call them chronic because they never cure them. Hypertension, treatment with a pill, diabetes, coronary artery disease, treatment with pills is close to zero, okay? It always fails. You know, imagine if a sports team lost every game. They lost every single game. Would you say they're a good team? No, you would say they stink, okay? So that's your so-called modern science. There's your atheistic science. So all these phony lightweights will tell you, oh, science doesn't need religion and all this stuff. That's wrong. Actually, it needs it in a big way, because without religion, science becomes a liar, and it doesn't really help people very much, if at all. Okay, so what is the cure rate for low-fat, low-sodium vegan diet with hypertension? It's at least 90%. You know, the sooner you start, if you start early, it's even higher than that. That's just an average number from Kempner, Pritikin, McDougall, and more. But you start earlier, it's better than that. Coronary artery disease, it's better than that. It's you know, close to 100%. Esselson's diet. Kempner had incredible results. So did Dr. Ornish, okay? Diabetes type 2, if you catch them early, less than 4 years of diagnosis, incredibly good results in the Roy Taylor papers, and other doctors have had great results, Dr. McDougall, Dr. Barnard, and others, okay? And if you love somebody, you tell them the truth, even if that means less money for you. This painting here is Dante with Virgil in a boat crossing the river Styx, and these are all the poor lost souls, like, you know, going for the quick fix, for the pill, and they never get better. They just progressively deteriorate, you know, diabetics, cognitive decline, getting their feet amputated every day. It's pretty sad. So this painting by Eugene Delacroix, To the Cross, okay, Delacroix, okay, from 1822. I think that's about it. So anyways, I hope that was helpful, and it's the truth. So